Hi, this next video is about team development and actually forming the group. So there is a model, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, called the Tuckman team model. And I was introduced this particular model during my course this year. And it goes over 4 stages of team development. And I'm going to particularly focus on the forming stage with this video, and then we'll talk more about the storming stage later on, but I'm just going to introduce you the actual stages now. So the 4 stages include forming, storming, norming, and then performing. So throughout the series we'll talk about the latter stages, but that first stage with the Tuckman model is the forming stage. This is when the group actually starts to come together and form together as a unit. So this is a very important stage because this is the first time that the group's starting to develop, and it's very important to do it right the first time, right? So the forming stage is very crucial. So this particular video is going to be about the different things that you should consider when you're forming the group. And the last video we talked about the selection of your team members, and this one will talk about actually coming together. So the first thing that I'd like to talk to you guys about would be the 8 behaviors to a smarter team, I'm sorry. I'm going to have my girls help me with that one. So these are the 8 behaviors to think about with team development. So, girls.
State views and ask genuine questions. Share all information. Use specific examples. Explain reasoning and intent. And agree on what important words mean. Test assumptions. Focus on interest and not positions. Discuss undiscussable issues.
Okay, so about team goal setting, this is where you define your tasks and outcomes to the process. So this one's pretty important. This is where you actually take the information that you've received from what you guys need to do and you clarify it. So get it very clear to what the goals are and the tasks are so that everybody's on the same page to what we're working toward. This might be kind of a fluid process. So you might see that you've reached one goal and then you guys have to work to clarify and set another objective afterwards, or maybe you had a goal set in mind and then the leadership above you changed their minds and then you guys had to kind of flex. So know that this is kind of a fluid thing, but initially clarify that goal, and then if anything changes you're going to need to re-clarify it. So team goals, very important. The next thing to do is actually to set up the roles. So can be individual roles. Who's going to do what? Sounds very basic, but it's not that simple. You've got to be able to make sure that everybody's role is very clear. Is there going to be somebody that's going to do primary data collection? Is there going to be somebody that's going to work on the financial aspect? Is there going to be somebody that's going to work over here in this realm? So you've got to be able to identify that so that people are very focused and able to do their particular role. Sometimes in big groups or in teams, you'll notice that one person's trying to do everything, or maybe somebody's good at something else, but they want to do that, but they've got to assign something else. So if those roles aren't very clear, you'll notice sometimes there's a lot of overlap with the tasks, and it can get very stressful if somebody else is trying to do that job, if somebody else is trying to come over. So make sure the roles are very clear and cut out. The other thing is the rules of conduct. So this can be decided by the team, basically how the team's going to operate, how you guys are going to work together as a unit. Maybe you want everybody to have a say in how it's going to work, or maybe you are going to help them come up with the ideas, so kind of management directed. But either way, it's important to lay that out there. Are we going to work to get this down? When's our deadline? How are we going to communicate? How's the meetings going to work? When's a good time for everybody? That kind of thing. So that kind of rules of conduct. And then accountability. So what if somebody doesn't meet their tasks? What's going to happen? Getting that up or out there up front is actually pretty important, because then at least everybody's on the same page and everybody understands what the consequences are if they don't stick with that, or they don't follow their rules, or they don't go with the rules of conduct, or they go off page. So getting that accountability set up actually does help people motivate or stay motivated to actually do what they're told to do. So important to establish that too. And then once everything's discussed, the goals, the roles, the rules, the accountability, is to commit to it. So actually decide as a team to go ahead and go through with what's been laid out and go for it. If later on, like I said, management changes their mind and decides for you guys to change your goals, then decide if you're going to go ahead and go through this process again. Maybe you just need to adjust the goal and the tasks above, or maybe you need to go through it all again and redo the roles and redo the rules of conduct and change the accountability rules. So you might actually have to redo the whole process, but maybe you just need to adjust one part. But this is something that can be a very fluid thing. It can be something that you guys can adjust as you go, depending on how the team's doing. Maybe you're sensing that the team is not doing well in the rules of conduct, and there's a reason, and that you guys need to go back and reflect on it again. So look at it like a fluid thing, but it will help you in that forming stage to actually take time to talk about that. The Harvard Business Review and the Harvard Guide to Leading Teams, which I haven't mentioned so much yet in the video series. This is a really good book too about team development, and it does talk about coming together as a team. So think about that when you're actually in that forming stage, the Tuckman model. Okay. Another good article that I read was the Hill and Anteby's article about task design and team development. So it goes over the meta framework for team design and how important coming up with the rules and regulations and the roles are, because if this stuff's not clear, everything else that has to do with the team may fall apart because it just wasn't clear from the beginning. So this stuff's vital to team formation. Okay. So that pretty much sums up the team development and forming section. In the next video, we're going to continue with the team development. Okay, thanks, guys.
I forgot.
Okay, ready?
Discuss
Undiscuples, undiscussables. Discuss undiscussables.
Test. Boom.
Like, dab.
Boom. Discuss undiscussable issues.
Boom.
Dab.
And dab. All right, that was
Done. Bye bye. Wait. Elf. Bye bye.